Okay, let's dive into a really fascinating puzzle, one that comes from an ancient creation story. I want you to imagine a world, perfectly designed, totally ready for life. But instead of this big explosion of growth, there's nothing. Just a deliberate, divine pause.
And that's exactly what this one verse from Genesis is talking about. It describes a world that's perfectly made, but it's intentionally empty. Now, the source material we're exploring today argues this isn't some forgotten step or a flaw in the plan. No, this is a profound statement of divine strategy. The garden is empty for a very, very specific reason.
And that really is the central mystery we're going to try to solve. Why would a perfect creation be put on hold like that? The answer the source provides, well, it reveals this powerful, timeless principle about how growth and blessing and purpose are actually unlocked. And here it is, the core idea: alignment before outpouring. The source argues this story isn't about absence at all, it's about a deliberate strategy. The idea is that God waits to put the right structure in place before releasing divine power. It's a blueprint, that shows order always comes before anointing. So let's start breaking down the first clue in this mystery, and it involves two very different kinds of plants that were intentionally held back.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. The source highlights a distinction between two ancient Hebrew words for plants. On one hand, you have sayak, which represents this wild, chaotic potential. And on the other, you've got eseb, which is cultivated, orderly growth. The difference between them? It's everything.
So first, there was no siach. The source explains that this is wild, uncultivated growth, think thorns and thistles. It's potential without any discipline. God deliberately prevented this from appearing because, and this is a huge point, He does not allow chaos to masquerade as blessing. Unruled growth, even with good potential, is ultimately just destructive. And then there was no eseb. Now this is the good stuff, the fruit, the grain, the vegetables. This is the growth that requires a partnership, and it was also withheld. So why? Because this type of blessing, according to our source, is intentionally designed to be completely inaccessible without a responsible human partner there to manage it. So, with both types of growth totally on hold, the verse gives us the next clue. It's about the source of power that would make everything happen, and it's symbolized by rain.
In the source's interpretation, rain isn't just water. It's a powerful symbol of divine empowerment, of blessing, of spiritual renewal. And here, God is deliberately holding it back. You see, the heavens are ready to pour out, but they are waiting for something on the ground to be ready first.
And this illustrates that core relationship perfectly. Blessing isn't automated, it's a partnership. Heaven provides the raw potential, right? The soil, the seed, the divine power. But humanity, we have to provide the structure for it, the stewardship, the readiness, the alignment. Without that earthly structure, the heavenly power is withheld.
So the crucial point is this: the delay wasn't a punishment or some sign of God's absence. No, it was preparation. Heaven doesn't respond to need or desperation alone. It responds to readiness. It waits for order before it pours out power.
And this brings us to the final and frankly, the most important reason for the pause. The verse reveals the one missing piece that unlocks the entire puzzle. This is the key that unlocks the whole thing. And it's not just about needing a farmer to go pull some weeds. The source argues this is about needing an authorized representative, a steward, to manage the blessing. The entire system was just waiting for the one who would bring the earthly alignment needed to receive that heavenly outpouring. The source lays out this crystal clear, three-step blueprint. First, God establishes order by restraining chaos. Second, He positions a steward, a responsible partner. And only then, as the third and final step, does He release the power, the rain. This sequence, it's completely non-negotiable. So, what does this blueprint for blessing really mean? When we put all these pieces together, we get a timeless principle for how growth truly actually functions. So the big picture here is that those seasons of waiting are not seasons of absence. Not at all. They are seasons of intense preparation and alignment. The source argues that delay is part of the design, a form of divine protection to keep all that potential from being wasted. Stewardship is the key that unlocks the rain, because order absolutely must come before power. And that leaves us with this final, provocative thought. It invites us to look at the empty gardens in our own lives differently. What if the delays we experience, the moments where it feels like nothing is growing, are not a sign of denial? What if they are actually a season of alignment,
preparing the ground for a greater downpour than we could have ever managed before.